Hello again. Hopefully y'all came over here from the video where I unboxed some of the stuff we're using in this video, but if not, hi, hello, there is indeed a first part to this video. So for this part I wanted to use the opportunity of starting a new sketchbook to share with y'all some of the things that helped me finish the first sketchbook I ever completed, which was a couple of weeks or months ago. I can't remember how long it was, but I, like many other people, deal with a bit of blank page paralysis when it comes to sketchbooks, which is why I never worked on them as much as I should have up until recently. So here are 5 techniques I like to use to add some color, texture, and composition to pages before I even have the slightest clue what I want to draw on them. Tip number 1 is just using scrap pieces of paper you have laying around to add some layers to your sketchbook. I like to use some cheap, colorful dollar store cardstock, which I cut down to whatever size just feels right, and then I slap it down with some glue or double-sided tape. Here, I also use some textured paper from Stationery Pal to add some additional interest. You can also use regular copy paper, notebook paper, or whatever other loose paper you have on hand. Cut it, tear it, color it before you paste it into your sketchbook, whatever you feel like doing. Like I said, I have no idea what I'm going to put down on these pages before I start coming up with a layout. The only goal here is to break up the white space so that when you do go in and draw, you have some kind of jumping off point to keep yourself from getting frozen by a blank page. For me, this process is just as fun and intuitive as sketching itself. I pick materials and lay them out however I feel like. I honestly don't even care if it's pretty, I just want to put something down on these pages to spice them up. Okay, so this spread is kind of 2 tips rolled into one and kind of related to the last tip of using scrap paper. I'm using air quotes here. One of the simple things that brings me joy is collecting paint sample swatches from Walmart, which I then like to use in my sketchbook. Best of all, these sample swatches are free and they're a great way to come up with color schemes for spreads. Once I had these laid down, I felt like the layout was still a little too bare for my liking, so later on, as you can see by the lack of nail polish, I decided to add in some frames for my future art using washi tape. Now, I know the typical use for washi tape is to protect borders you want to keep white while painting, but here I intend to use washi tape as permanent decorative frames for whatever I end up drawing here. Plain washi tape would work just as well, but using patterned washi tape like this can also provide you with additional inspiration by giving you some sort of theme to go off of when you come to this page. Tip number 3, make random shapes or frames to draw in. You can use any medium you like to create these frames, whether that's colorful markers like me or just plain pen or pencil. I chose rectangles and squares, but you can choose any shape you like. I also opted to make my frames overlap, but you can lay them out however you wish. Like I mentioned before, making these layouts is intuitive, so don't limit yourself to things you've seen other people do. Sketchbooks are for you to do whatever you want. I like lots of different colors, so I use lots of different colors. They don't necessarily go together, but I personally find the color scheme chaos pleasing. Tip number 4 is to pull out your sticky notes. Again, this is along the same lines as using scrap paper, but you can find sticky notes in all sorts of pre-cut shapes, patterns, and color schemes. I find that this technique is more challenging both in coming up with a layout and trying to decide what to draw afterward. So if you enjoy challenges, this one's for you. Sticky note pages tend to be the most random for me. Aside from the color scheme, I really have no idea what I'm going to make out of this page, and I love it. One idea would be to lay out your sticky notes on the page in such a way that you can make up a comic as you go later on. I think that would be a pretty fun challenge myself. You can also place hidden drawings under sticky notes to make your sketchbook more interactive. For me, I found that I like my sketchbooks to be a tactile experience as well as visual, so I just really enjoy having all the different textures to touch when I come look at my pages later. And lastly, tip number 5 is to use paint to fill an entire page with color or just to make random shapes to draw in. This was one of my primary techniques with my last sketchbook and it was so much fun. Here I used metallic watercolors for one spread and acrylics and marker for another. I only wanted to lay out a handful of pages for this video, but I'll most likely go through and paint a bunch more pages in the near future. For this page, I wasn't really a fan of how the watercolor came out as it was quite streaky, but I'm confident I'll be able to make something out of these regardless. Using more opaque paint to cover an entire page is also great when you have ink bleed through from a previous page, as it covers it up and gives you a clean slate to make the best possible use of all your spreads. For the acrylic spread here, I love how the brush strokes came out, and I'm also digging the imperfect marker frames. More loosey-goosey stuff like this can help remind your future self that your spreads don't have to be perfect. You can use paint colors that go together to have a jumping off point for a color scheme, or randomly pick some colors to give yourself more of a challenge. And for this last little bit of the video, I just wanted to show you what I ended up doing with some of these pages so you can get a better idea of how these layouts can be used. I took a bit of a break from sketchbooks after I finished my last one, so I was quite rusty when I went to fill these pages for this video. I was having a really hard time figuring out what to draw, but having these little sections of color made up in advance definitely helped me out. Since I haven't drawn seriously in a while, I wanted to keep my sketches nice and loose and just keep everything low pressure. I don't normally show sketches like this because I don't think they're worth showing, but you know what? This is all about doing whatever you want in your sketchbook, so I'm going to show you some of the imperfect stuff in mine. I really love going in with loose, messy lines like I used here and really not worrying about making anatomy or whatnot perfect. The textured paper was a little difficult to draw on, but I think the sketch turned out cute anyways. I feel like making scrapbooky layouts like this just adds a certain charm to spreads and forces me to engage with my art more than I would with just a blank white page. As someone with a criminally short attention span, the process of slapping layouts down and then having to figure out how to use them later is just so massively entertaining. I don't know, something about it just makes me more excited to use my sketchbooks than I've ever been. For this page, I felt like going in and doing quick little sketches of carousel animals for some reason. Carousel animals are normally obnoxiously colorful, and I feel like it's been a while since I've just done plain pencil sketches, so that's what I focused on for these frames. Just didn't bother with the colors at all for the animals. Again, I was feeling pretty rusty when it came to drawing, so I also used the opportunity to pull up some references and draw a lot of different animal species to help myself break out of the chibi canines I've been forcing myself to spam for a side project. Since the subjects of the frames weren't colorful, I decided on a whim that I wanted to go in and make a loud background behind the frames. Does it match the subject matter or the colors already in the spread? No. Was it fun and liberating to scribble and make marks just for the sake of it? Yes. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, y'all, that's what sketchbooks are for. Don't ever forget it. And for the last page I'm going to show y'all, I ended up pulling out some gouache I got in the art kit Sibylle Monet collaborated with Mottery on. I actually haven't used this gouache since I first opened the kit, so it's been months. I've been terrified to waste it because it's really nice paint, but when I worked on this page, I kept thinking about the color swatch on there and had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted the finish to look, which I could only achieve with gouache. This page is super simple, but it's probably my favorite of the three I did for this video. The gouache was so satisfying to work with, and although I felt bad about squeezing out way more than I needed, this was still a very welcome, low-key learning experience for me. It was so relaxing, and I adore the color scheme, which ended up also being a nod to the pattern on the washi tape. As for the frame I made with the washi tape, I ended up doing a quick and simple landscape just to use up some of the leftover paint. I also used the blank space to the right of the frame to do a basic little study of a piece I think was done by Hiroshi Yoshida because I adore the Shinhanga art style and I want to play around with similar line work. Overall, I just really love how the colors and the subject matter of this page turned out, even though everything is pretty simplistic. And now the video is coming to a close, so I really hope this was helpful and that you got some inspiration for setting up some layouts in advance for your sketchbooks. Doing this kind of thing has really changed my relationship with sketchbooks, and I hope it can help y'all too. It is a lot of fun to do. Let me know if y'all end up trying out any of the things I talked about in here. I'd love to know how it worked out for y'all. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, I'd very much appreciate it if you dropped a like on the video. So I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Bye!